Nigeria's economic growth slowed to 3.98% year-on-year, according to data released by the National Bureau of Statistics, as inflation and tight monetary policy weighed on activities. Growth in services and agriculture, as well as rising oil production, drove the economic expansion in July, September. But overall economic growth slowed from 4.23% year-on-year in the second quarter of the year. The economy expanded by 3.13%, and in the first 3 months of the year, after updated calculations following rebasing of its gross domestic product. The rebasing exercise took place in July and aims to reflect structural changes in Africa's most populous nation. The report from the Bureau of Statistics states that in the third quarter, the oil sector grew 5.84% year-on-year, supported by an average daily crude output of 1.64 million barrels per day, up from 1.47 million barrels in the same quarter of 2024. But the sector's shares of GDP slipped to 3.44%, reflecting Nigeria's continued reliance on non-oil activities. The non-oil sector expanded by 3.91%, buoyed by 4.15% growth year-on-year in services and the industry, while agriculture grew 3.77%. Now, the World Bank said in October that Nigeria had made progress in stabilizing its economy through the recent policy reforms, but urged more action to improve living standards and curb soaring food prices. My guest is Dr. Yushau Aliyu, a fellowship doctorate of the Institute of Professional Economists and Policy Management in Abuja. He joins me from our Abuja studios for this conversation. Mr. Aliyu, I must thank you so very much for your time on the program. Good afternoon.
Thank you for the privilege. Thank you.
Yes. I think an overview of the GDP figures for the third quarter is good for us to start this conversation. When you saw those figures, what were you expecting? Are you satisfied with what you saw with regards to our figures for the third quarter? That's GDP third quarter 2025.
In fact, it wasn't my expectation, because in the previous month, the figure is above 4.2%. So for it to slide downward, it is not expected because of the tempo that has been sustained by the monetary authorities as well as fiscal authorities, and also the performance of the economy from different angles, especially the non-oil sector. But when we take also into cognizance the performance of the economy year on year, which shows a decline also, is not expected. But there are certain fundamentals of economics that have triggered such a slight decline, but we are expecting those factors, macroeconomic fundamentals, will be rightly adjusted so as to continue to have the similar growth that we have experienced over 2-3 months ago.
There are some fundamentals that you've identified. Now, let's look at the sector's performance. In your understanding of the sector performance, like the services sector didn't do as well as it used to do. But we have some improvement in some other sectors. And it looks like our economy is now more diversified. How does all of this come to you?
No, that is the beauty of diversification. You know, sometimes I portray that our economy is a diversified economy, because the potentials that are existing within the macroeconomic environment are so great that each and every sector has a role to perform in the GDP life of this economy. Let me take minus the service sector. You take the mainstay of the economy, that's agriculture. For a very long time, Nigerian population, the highest number of employment is from the agri sector. And once we interpret GDP to be the monetary values of what individuals are doing, what corporate organizations are doing, then definitely we are expecting agriculture to play a greater role. And also, once you take solid mineral, there has been a direct attempt by the government, both at the federal and state government, to put right policy measures in the solid mineral industry, which bring about some metallic instrument that are used globally, which also, if it is well harnessed, is going to be contributing significantly, not only to the life of the GDP, but to the economic life of citizens, because the involvement of many foreign dominated companies that are expert in metallic exploration is coming, especially around Nasarawa, Kaduna State. That is the solid base of the economy. These are good measures. But once the deficiency which I want the Bureau of Statistics to look into is the dimension of the performance of the service economy and the performance of the creative economy. Because once you have a very culturalized society that with so much of creativity and which is contributing not only to the well-being of the Nigerian economy but to all economy at large, you realize that the service sector need to have more potentials to tap from the production of creativity in our economy, which also, if it is given an emphasis, I'm expecting the life of this GDP to have a positive look.
The oil and gas sector, to me, still remains very important. Dr. Aliyu, I don't know what you think with regards to the performance of Nigeria's oil and gas sector, particularly at this time that the NUPRC and other agencies are trying to improve or increase production capacity.
The performance of the oil sector has to do with the performance of oil production, which has significantly increased. For an economy that produces 1.6 million barrels per day, that shows that there is so much to be derived from that sector if you look at the component that is within the confines of that particular sector, oil and gas. Now, effort must be emphasized of expanding the PMS production by Dangote, who is targeting about 1.4 million barrels per day in the next coming years. So, but all these components and also the size of the economy and also the potential in the economy, there is much to be done. Because even if we emphasize on the diversified economy, which each and every sector from the manufacturing to banking services to insurance to other component of industrialized production, you realize that oil and gas is still having the potentials to bring additional value. The value increasing of PMS production, increasing the PMS consumption, but that has to do with the energy capacity of that economy, because some of this soft power that are required to push our economy is not only from oil and gas, but oil and gas will continue to play a significant role in bringing additional revenue, in stabilizing the exchange rate, and at the same time also providing additional job opportunity. But what the economy is significantly looking is the performance of oil and gas, which has to be attached to also reducing cost of consumption. These are very significant, especially when you look at the barrel cost at the OPEC market and barrel cost at the international market, and also the performance of other sub-sectors within the industry.
Let me take it a step further and let's look at other sectors like real estate, trade, and financial services. Now, what do you think government can do to expand the reach, or, to make sure that these sectors are doing more than they are contributing to the growth of Nigeria's economy? Real estate, trade, and financial services now.
Before we go into real estate, which is glaringly clear in all spheres of our economy, you see development of real estate. Personally, last two weeks, I presented a paper on real estate in Kaduna in trying to mobilize additional value to estate investment. But I am of the opinion that the service sector, we must be commending the central bank for the recapitalization exercise. This recapitalization is what will now give several entrepreneurs, several investors window to access funds that is required in growing the subsectors of the economy. The capitalization effort, especially that the economy is targeting $1 trillion economy, which I think at the end of the capitalization exercise, the model of approach in the prospect of the financial market will be greater than $1 million economy, $1 trillion economy. So, but it is important also to know that the other component of financial services, which include insurance and insurance policies, need to be properly guided and inculcated. The reason why there are a lot of potentials that are not being tapped, especially in insurance. Most of the investment prospects by new companies coming in, new entrepreneurs coming in, does not cover insurance. And that insurance has to do with the insurance of life, insurance of capital, insurance of even the asset of all organizations, which can give better performance of the financial market. And when you have sound financial market, that is when real estate will also have access to facilities in the financial market, because there is presently a shortfall of over 28 million units of houses in Nigeria. And once you have that large chunk of shortfalls, it means that a lot of Nigerians are either squatting or they don't have a beneficial shelter to have. And once you have that potential, there is no, also if you want to grow the sector, also to open mortgage facilities, not just to cover those who are working in formal sectors, but those who are even outside informal sector, so that you design a policy of real estate that can suit urbanization, that can also suit rural development. These are all good components that can bring better prosperity for the economy as well as the players within the economy.
Getting more interesting now. So projections have already started coming up, because people say the Q4 figures should be better than what we have now. I don't know if you are also thinking along that line. Maybe the Q4 figures would be better than what we have with Q3.
Well, repeat the question, please.
Okay, I'm asking you, what is your projection for Q4 2025?
There is going to be a good prospect for the economy. You know, the tax reform is effective 1st January.
Yes.
And once we have once we have that effective date, then definitely there is going to be new resources that will be in the hand of several tiers of government. And not only having several tiers of government, we are expecting the central bank to continue to harness the potential macroeconomic indices that can help inflation to continue to decline, not only to decline, but also to give a lot of prospect in terms of price stability, which is the ultimate. For now, like I said, it's commendable with the stability that is on ground, but it is not enough to continue with the stringent measure of tight monetary control, which also create a lot of hurdles based on the nature of operations of most of our traditional market. And I think in 2026, there is going to be more prospect, because the politicians at the helm of affairs will begin to look into the election period and begin to commit more of resources, more of intelligence gathering, and more of a commitment in sustaining the relative progress that has been made with the GDP, with our inflation, and as well as the financial indices that is coming out from the monetary control measures including the recent development by the central bank in trying to create more awareness of the use of digital platforms in order to enhance the performance of service sector.
Now, finally, you've touched on a very important topic, which is the tax laws and implementation of these laws. Now, I want to ask you, with all of the back and forth, with all of the reactions and concerns being raised, you know what happened at the stock market some weeks ago, and you know before the minister came to address brokers and all of that, and other issues coming up from all angles. I still had someone speak with me over the weekend and was telling me something that I really know is not true about the law. Now, what do you make of all of this back and forth, and how do you think this will affect seamless implementation in January?
You see, by nature, human beings don't want to pay taxes, and nobody wants to hear tax. But the reality is that there must be taxation for the efficiency of state. But the state also must understand the principle of quid pro quo, the returns benefit. So as we go into the implementation, more understanding of the provision of the tax will be known to several consumers, because presently the society is divided into different groups. Those that understood why there must be tax reform, and those who understand but don't agree, and those who doesn't even understand. So by the time the tax become into law, and then people began to see the benefit of tax proceed that is coming, and also at the same time also began to see the performance of tax revenues in terms of critical investment into the economy, there will be better understanding. But however, it is back and front is normal, and that's why you have a lot of business cycle which indicate a policy change in A can affect policy change in B, and at the same time also using all Lagrangian multipliers. There are testing avenues where you test policy and policy measures. But the best thing that has come to this economy is that the tax laws pass through the National Assembly, which is a representative of the entire scope of the economy, and then was accented, which means that no matter what back and front that we are seeing in the implementation, is that there is parliamentary endorsement, and which also represent endorsement of the general population. But what we are expecting to give confidence is building confidence about the tax process. How do you bring that? That is in the hand of those who are given the opportunity to manage the resources efficiently, to manage any crisis that will come within the same provision, and at the same time also propose better tax option, especially to the growing small businesses and intermediate businesses, including individuals who are the main target of tax in any society. These are good policies, but the efficiency and sustainability of that good policies, it will depend on the performance of the administrators, not in the short run, but in the medium term.
Dr. Ishao Aliyu, I must thank you so much, a fellowship doctorate of the Institute of Professional Economists and Policy Management, Abuja. Thanks for always being there. We appreciate you.